to absolutely the best podcast, A Work in Progress. I'm Zach. With me, as always, is my good friend George.
Hello, hello.
And this is Series 1, Episode 12. It feels like a lot more than that. And today we are talking about Ant-Man from 2015. After we discuss the movie, we'll figure out where to place it in our MCU movie ranking in our quest to figure out which one is absolutely the best. As a reminder, we assume the listener has seen the movie before, and of course there will be lots and lots of spoilers. This one's a little bit of a standalone movie almost, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's pretty standalone, yeah.
I think we have some new listeners in new countries. India, New Zealand, and Finland. But
nice.
To be honest, I've lost track, and it's way too much work for me to figure that out. So apologies in advance if I skip countries or repeat countries going forward. Did you want to kick us off with your initial thoughts on Ant-Man?
Sure. Well, I've been a fan of Paul Rudd since like Clueless. The only thing that confused me initially was that like why they were starting with an older Hank Pym played by Michael Douglas, who I have no problem with, and then centered it on like the more, I guess, younger Scott Lang Ant-Man version. But hey, it looked the trailer looked hilarious to me, especially the part where they're talking about second chances. That whole Paul Rudd saying, "My days of breaking into places and stealing shit are over. What do you need me to do?" And then Michael Douglas is like, "I want you to break into places and steal some shit."
Yeah.
That really sealed it for me for the trailer. And then the yellow jacket suit, the preview for that looked really awesome.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember seeing it in the trailer. I don't remember the trailer that much. So
yeah, it was when the big Casey wooden train thing was coming at him.
Right.
And then he went, ah.
Yes.
And then that was another funny part of that trailer. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that those weren't the only like hilarious scenes in the movie.
Right.
Just all blown into the trailer. So
that
was
happens
great.
A lot actually. But yes.
Yeah. There was a hilarious like meme or animation thing going around just before Endgame came out, where people were wondering like how could the heroes possibly beat Thanos with the Infinity Stones? Somebody had done an animation where Ant-Man shrunk himself, jumped into Thanos' mouth, and then just grew into giant size out of his ass. and you know, like that's a legit way to beat Thanos, I think. You know. But
I don't think he'd come back from that. Yeah,
right. He didn't have to aim for the head. He just rip right, just grow right out of his ass. I thought that was a pretty salient avenue for success to up their chances for survival.
I'm sure they considered it at some point.
Yeah, somebody had to. But overall, yeah, I remember leaving this movie like really entertained when I saw it. I think I did see this one in the theater. And as much as I like loved Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, I do remember coming out and going, "Damn, that Michael Pena just stole every scene."
Oh, 100%.
when he was in it.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy was just freaking hilarious.
I took a look at my ticket stub, and apparently I saw the economy matinee about a week after it opened in IMAX 3D. Apparently. Side note, I don't really like 3D movies. It all seems like a gimmick, and maybe never once has it been necessary for a movie to be in 3D, except maybe Avatar, because it was only interesting in 3D.
Avatar only had the 3D.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was pretty boring besides that.
Yeah.
So on rewatch, I totally forgot that it was a 3D movie because I didn't really notice anything that they're obviously trying to shove in your face. But upon further revisiting scenes, I could tell that that's what they were going for in certain spots where they kind of leaned into it. But it didn't really take me out of the movie. So I suppose that was well done 3D. I don't remember much about the first time that I saw it. I think that it was a day date with the wife while our one child at the time was in daycare. I know that I saw it with her at some point, and that's the only ticket stub that I have. So I'm assuming that was the show that we saw together. I do remember liking it and thinking that the toy train gag at the end was pretty great. This time around, I thought it was still fun, but I really had the opportunity now to really zoom in on the problems that it would have with it. Should surprise no one that there are some science scrapes coming up.
This is probably the first very sciencey one out of all of them too, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Hank
Iron
Pym
Man
was a scientist.
Iron Man, the especially the first one and the second one.
Yeah.
I feel like they tried to work some science into it, but this one might be the most where they tried to make it have a scientific explanation.
Right.
I did watch this also with the Peyton Reed and Paul Rudd commentary. This is the first one of the MCU that I found that actually had a commentary. So I did pick up a few extra things here and there from that. So let's go with the credits now. Ant-Man is the 12th movie in the MCU series. It was written by Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish, Adam McKay, and Paul Rudd. Apparently, Edgar Wright was initially going to direct. I don't know if that would have worked for me anyway. I love Shaun of the Dead. Totally awesome.
Same, yeah.
And I like Scott Pilgrim a lot too. That's another good movie that he did. But his other stuff that I've seen, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't really.
What was his other stuff? I love those two movies.
He's got Hot Fuzz. World's End and Baby Driver is one. I know people really love Baby Driver, but
I actually like Baby Driver.
I'm not too surprised. And I don't fault you for that. It wasn't for me. It was okay, but that's not my kind of movie. I need.
You said that as I'm not surprised you liked it.
No, well, I'm
just kidding.
I get why people like it. Just doesn't do it for me. So Joe Cornish co-wrote the original script with Edgar Wright. So that's those two writing credits there. And then Marvel tried to get Adam McKay to direct the movie as well, but he was friends with Edgar Wright. So he just agreed to help punch up the script. And he did that as a favor to Paul Rudd, who he's also friends with. And Paul Rudd did a lot to write some of the dialogue. So that's why he gets the writing credit.
Oh, nice.
So, and as far as Adam McKay goes, I like him. He's a funny guy. He wrote and or directed Anchorman and Step Brothers. And I know we've talked about Step Brothers before.
Yeah.
And then he's also done some stuff that's a little more serious, like The Big Short and Don't Look Up. So all good movies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, Don't Look Up. I like Don't Look Up.
It was good. I mean, I liked it a lot. Hey, everybody. I'm jumping in after the fact. George and I totally skipped over Peyton Reed being the director. Peyton Reed did Bring It On, which I unironically love. Pretty sure George likes it too. He can correct me on the next episode if I'm wrong on that. Sorry for skipping that. Sorry for the butt in. Now returning to the previously recorded episode. So main characters in Ant-Man. These are mostly new characters. Do we have any repeats besides Falcon, Howard Stark, and Peggy Carter? I think everybody else is new.
No, everybody's new. Yeah. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Ant-Man. The titular character. There isn't really much to say. Is Paul Rudd pretty much being Paul Rudd? Yeah. Except he's definitely worked out for the role.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and like, who doesn't like Paul Rudd? Chris Pratt was like totally new to me in Guardians because I hadn't watched Parks and Rec, but like Paul Rudd, I already knew the guy and watched so many of his movies. So yeah, I thought he was pretty great.
And by the way, you mentioned you were a fan of his since Clueless. I think that was the first thing he ever did. Actually, was Clueless.
Was it really?
First thing on screen. He might have done like a play or something before, but
oh wow,
pretty sure. Next, we have Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. Hank is a S.H.I.E.L.D. founder, and he was the original Ant-Man. You get a little bit of that in this movie as well. And Michael Douglas, always good. No complaints. I like him. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I was just trying to think of like, is there a bad Michael Douglas movie? Every time I see him too, I also think of Falling Down.
Yes.
Which is a pretty great movie. I
love that movie. And it's funny because I've heard more recently where people are like, like he's not the hero in that movie. You're not supposed to like him. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to go out and do those things.
Right.
But there's like a little bit of a catharsis to it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Those are the same people that blame video games for all the violence in the world.
Yeah. Next, we have Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne. That's also Hank Pym's daughter. And she's a board member. She's a board member at Pymtech. Everybody knows Evangeline Lilly from Lost, of course. And
is that her first thing? that she?
It's definitely her biggest thing. I'm not sure if she did anything before that. I didn't look into it.
And she was on not Lord of the Rings, but the Hobbit.
The Hobbit. Yeah, I think so.
Afterwards,
I think
right?
So, yeah. As much as I hate her politics, I do like her, and she is good in this.
Yeah, I liked her as Hope.
Do you want the next one?
Yeah, Corey Stoll as Darren Cross, aka Yellow Jacket, Hank Pym's protege, I guess, and he ends up running Pym Tech.
Yep.
And then pushes Hank out of Pym Tech.
I find him to be almost comically the bad guy here.
Yeah.
You know, but it is a comic movie, so I guess that makes sense. I didn't know him from anything before this, but I do hear that he's in Rebel Moon. Maybe you can confirm.
Oh, shit. If he's in Rebel Moon, I totally missed him in Rebel Moon.
Or maybe it's a small part.
I think it's because I was busy just banging my face on the table when I was watching Rebel Moon. Wondering what I was doing watching it. The Corey Stoll is great in I liked him in The Strain. I don't know if you've seen that. It's I forget, I think it was FX, I think. It was based off of a book.
I think I want to say Del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. Because the vampire, the vampire mandibles and stuff were there. I think he produced it or something. But he was great in The Strain. He was like the main protagonist in The Strain with the kid who is annoying as hell in that movie.
Now that you mention it, I do remember that. I did watch like the first episode of that. I think it was a TV show, right? Or was it a miniseries?
You know who's also in it? Remember the old guy from the very first scene in Captain America? The first guy that the Red Skull kills?
Yes.
When that guy was also in The Strain. Yeah.
Wow. Good memory.
But I like him. I like Corey Stoll. I wish he was in more movies.
Yeah, he's definitely good in this. It's something about his mannerisms and like the way that he talks reminds me of Peter Sarsgaard a little bit.
They did him so wrong in Ant-Man 3.
Oh,
when he became MODOK. I mean, he was kind of hilarious as it, but like the special effects were just so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll have to revisit that one. You set the bar pretty low for me on that one, so I was kind of like, yeah, it's not a bad movie. But
I really just didn't like Ant-Man 3, but we'll get there. That's another episode, another podcast episode.
And then let's see, last among the main characters here, we got Michael Pena as Luis. Luis is basically Scott Lang's best friend forever. And I first saw him, I believe, in either season 3 or maybe season 4 of The Shield, where he plays another cop. It's not really a funny role. He does a couple of funny things in it, maybe, but for the most part, it's a serious role. But he was good in that. And I think we already said this, but he's probably the best part of the movie. I love Luis. So. He's great.
I think he's probably one of the best parts of the Ant-Man series.
Yes. Yeah.
Was he even in Ant-Man? No, he wasn't in Ant-Man 3.
That's why he is in 2, right? I'm pretty sure.
He was in 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I was bummed that he wasn't in 3.
Yeah. That's why 3 sucked.
It's definitely part of it. So there's a lot of supporting characters, and we can talk about them as we go.
Yes.
So let's now get into the main discussion.
So everything opens up with Hank Pym, young Hank Pym, de-aged Michael Douglas, walking into what looks like the beginnings of the Triskelion being built.
It is.
It was?
It is. I thought I had the same thought, and in the commentary, the director said as much. So
yeah, but yeah, he comes in. He's pissed that somebody's trying to copy his Pym particles.
Yeah, I thought that the de-aged Michael Douglas looked pretty good, except for the one corner of his mouth, like the left corner of his mouth. Did you notice that? It's like this. It looked like a really bad cold sore or something. It looked really weird to me.
Like frozen.
It had like this weird. I don't even know how to describe it. It was almost like it had a cut, like right in the corner. Really, really weird looking. My eyes went right to it. I'd forgotten about old Peggy Carter being in this too. And for 68, she still looks pretty good. I mean, it's old age makeup, right? But
was she supposed to be 68? She looks really good for a 68-year-old.
60 something, yeah. I mean, they probably just didn't age her up enough, right? But but it's kind of interesting that they age her up and Michael Douglas down for this opening scene.
Yep. And Howard Stark has that line about, he just kicked your ass full size. You really want to find out what it's like when you can't see him coming? And I was like, oh, hey, it's the older Howard Stark.
Oh, yeah. What was that in regards to?
It was in regards to the really super shady other founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. who had tried to steal the the Pym particles.
He's not a founder of Shield. He
was
just,
he?
I don't think so.
He wasn't, or was he just like a random agent that
I
was
don't
there?
know. Oh, I guess maybe he could be a founder of Shield. I don't know. I didn't take him to be a founder. I thought he was just like a board member kind of guy. But I could be
apparently
wrong.
So he had said something about what did he say again? Something about Hank losing Janet.
Oh, and his wife. Yeah.
So then Michael Douglas just took his head and like smashed it into the table.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a pretty good scene. I think my only beef with that opening scene was that between Hank Pym, Haley Atwell, and Howard Stark, those are three really high caliber individuals, and then they're working with this super shady guy who turns out to be like Hydra or an agent working with Hydra. Right.
Yeah. I didn't, like I said, he just seemed like a shitty board member kind of guy to me. I didn't really think that he was shady at first, so I didn't really see that coming. But even on this rewatch, I had forgotten that.
No, for me, just he totally felt sketchy right off the bat. And then just for admitting that they were trying to steal the Pym particles and then threatening to not let Hank leave S.H.I.E.L.D. to begin with.
Did he say we're trying to steal the Pym particles?
But he admitted that they were the ones because that technology was too valuable to for the government to not own it.
Okay, yeah, he said something to that effect for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well that's the opening scene, and then we go to, I guess, present day for this movie, which is like 2015-ish, and we have Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, in jail for what we later find out is basically Robin Hood crimes, where he stole money from the company that he worked for and gave it back to the customers. So I guess the company was technically stealing from the customers, something like that. He got caught doing that, did time, and here he is in jail, and he's about to basically get in a fight. What did you think of this misdirect with Scott Lang in jail fighting this huge black guy with surrounded by prisoners?
I was like, oh man, this is getting serious right off the bat. And it totally caught me off guard, actually, until the big guy was like, I'm going to miss you, Scott. And then I was just like, man, okay, so there's just everybody loving Paul Rudd like usual. Because I was at first, I was like, oh shit, they're going to Paul Rudd.
Oh.
And make him like a serious superhero.
Yeah, that would have been bad. That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
I did not like this fake out. I thought it was totally like it was just there to be a fake out, and I thought it was unnecessary. The idea was that he's basically getting jumped out of jail. Like he gets beat up on his last day of jail because everybody loves him or something. I don't know. I thought it was stupid.
Oh, I thought it was like a ritual because they remember
same idea, whatever ritual, whatever. I thought it was dumb because they start the movie, you're like, oh boy, he's in big trouble, and then it's like, no, it was just like this fun ritual thing we do, and I don't know. I didn't care for that.
See, because I thought it was because Louise says like he actually hit the big guy too, because they were talking about it in the van. So it was so I thought it was a thing to cement like him and Louise go really like way back, like when they both served time and everything, and that was how tight they were and how tight them and like just those inmates were.
Right,
like
and
basically
that's fine.
everybody looked like a bunch of teddy bears.
Why are they beating the shit out of each other on the last day? It's like, don't forget us or something. I don't know. I thought it was literally there just to be a misdirect, and it served no real purpose. Anyways,
fair. But yeah, and then he goes outside and Louise picks him up. And hey, man, this was where I was just like, man, this guy is so funny. He somehow he delivers his lines talking about his wife leaving him, his mom died, and his dad got deported. And he's like, but I got the van.
Yeah.
And he's all smiley too.
Yes. He's always like 3/4 smiling, even when he's talking about like these awful things that just happened to him. That's great.
And then Paul Rudd goes into like, I think they were talking about a possible gig. And then Paul Rudd's like, man, I got a master's in electrical engineering. I'm going to be fine. He just doesn't want to do like another crime. And then he ends up at Baskin Robbins.
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with Baskin Robbins, but
no, but yeah,
I personally like taking trips there.
Yes. Oh man, I was just there last weekend. Yeah, he's got to take the job at Baskin Robbins because he can't get a job elsewhere. And then I like it. They show him on the job at Baskin Robbins, and there's some dude asking about all these hot food options, and he's trying to explain to him like, no, it's just ice cream. That's all we have. And then the boss wants to have a word with him, and he says to his coworker, he's like,
Darby, could you just take care of this idiot? Thanks.
Nobody would legitimately walk into a Baskin Robbins and ask for like a burger, would they?
I don't think so, but I made for a funny line with the, can you take care of this idiot?
Yeah. So. Yeah. Then his boss, Dale. I think that was actually a question in some of the previous, some of the previous trivia. Name? Yeah. What was the name of the boss at Baskin Robbins? I vaguely remember it being the answer being Dale, because I was like, I could not remember it. But Dale from Baskin Robbins basically fires him because Baskin Robbins always finds out.
Yes, I like Dale. He's creepy and weird, but he's really funny. And he's talking to Scott.
No, it wasn't a violent crime. It was a cool crime.
But then he's got to fire him anyway. And that also provides a little bit of backstory about Scott Lang doing time for breaking and entering and larceny.
Yeah, I thought that part was like that's a great point. I love like how creative these scripts go with introducing backstory without like obviously introducing backstory.
Right. So after getting fired, Scott goes back to Luis's place and tells him about getting fired.
Yeah, and then Luis reiterates,
Baskin Robbins always finds out, bro.
Yeah. That was great. I love that.
And then they try to convince Paul to join a heist. Like I think T.I., the other guy, the computer
he's
guy.
He's got a couple of friends with him. Dave.
Just the three of them, right?
Yeah, there's Luis. Dave is T.I. and Kurt is David Dasmalchian. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I did not know that was him. And then because it wasn't he. That's the polka dot guy.
Oh, in the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Yeah. I love that guy.
I think that's great. Yeah, he's good in a lot of stuff. He plays all kinds of parts, but one of the ones that I was surprised to see him in, he's only in it for like a minute, is Bird Box. He's like one of the psychos who shows up to basically, I guess, kill Sandra Bullock and her family.
Oh, I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, I'm a little bit obsessed with that movie. I've watched it too many times. I'm the guy who likes it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I hated that movie.
Oh man, I like it a lot. It was good. Although the last time I watched it, I was like, it is a little bit hokey.
Did you watch the second one?
I watched like 5 minutes of it and was like, I'm not gonna bother with the rest of this.
Yeah.
I did read the second book. I've read both the books. The second book was okay. It was all right.
I didn't realize it came from books.
Yeah. It's pretty similar in the first one. Not 100%, but.
Got it.
Anyways, so yeah, Luis and his buddies are trying to convince Scott to do another job. I kind of had mixed feelings on that. It seems obvious that he's going to have to return to a life of crime, right?
Yeah.
But I appreciate that he doesn't do it right away. He doesn't immediately give up.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like we are unnecessarily dragging this out.
So then, I guess we fast forward to Pimtech. And is it Pimtech still, or did they? I can't remember.
There's some mention of Crosstech at one point.
Yeah.
I think it's on a building. Like there's Darren unveils like the scale model of the facilities, and on that building it says Crosstech, but the actual building still says Pimtech. I think throughout the whole movie.
Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, Hank Pym's still alive, and now we have old Michael Douglas. And then we also run into Hope and Darren Cross because they're both excited that he's come in. I did like the scene where he was going through security and they were like, "Who are you?" And he was like,
"Perhaps that will suffice." Very sorry, sir. Please come in.
Yeah. There's just the big picture of him on the wall. That's his identification. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's there because Darren's gonna supposedly do a demonstration. But he's such a creepy jerk CEO. He does a really good job of that.
Yeah. And then the sketchy AF government guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it turns out his name is Mitchell Carson.
Yep.
Is also there. So you know something's up. And then Darren gives his presentation on the Yellow Jacket technology based off of Hank's Ant-Man tech.
But Hank's never actually admitted that the Ant-Man tech exists. So I do like when he shows the old timey war footage of Hank as Ant-Man. I mean, you just see the Ant-Man suit. You don't know Hank is in it, but
you can't even see the suit. It's like a silhouette of the suit.
Yeah,
and it's hella cool because they do those quick zooms from like the actual footage, and then they zoom in on the tiny little fleck. That's like the outline of the suit.
Yeah,
initially.
that was cool.
Yeah, and there's a guy in the there's a guy who like raised concerns during their presentation, and his name is Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he opened his mouth, I was like, Frank's gonna get killed.
Oh yeah, he's like, so it's a suit, like something like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna go well for him. Anyways, it should surprise no one that I have a science gripe nerd rant. There's gonna be more than one. So in his presentation, Darren makes the mistake of explaining the impossible science of this movie, which I hate. He says that they can
change the distance between atoms while increasing density and strength.
I knew that. Right? As soon as I heard that line this time around, I knew that was gonna get to you.
Yeah, so I have so many problems with this. It's hard to know where to start. Atoms are actually already pretty close together. I think what he means to propose here is reducing the empty space that an atom takes up. You have a very tiny nucleus, it's surrounded by electrons, and there's a lot of empty space between the nucleus and the electrons. And I think that what they meant to say was they would shrink that space. I've got air quotes around some of that because even that's not really true, but we'd have to get way into atomic theory to really explain it. And nobody has time for that. It's going to be way easier to just say that's close enough. Especially for a movie, I would say that that's close enough. So let's suppose that that's what they said. That's what, that's what they meant. If you could shrink that average distance, trying to be a little more correct with that phrasing, you could shrink the average distance between the nuclei and electrons of atoms, which you cannot, just to be clear. But for movie magic purposes, let's pretend that you can, then you could shrink the size of things. Okay, I'll buy that. And Darren is correct that the density would go up because same amount of mass, smaller volume, higher density. All that makes sense. Right. But this is the problem for the movie because they'll shrink a 50-ton tank and carry it around on a keychain, even though it would still weigh 50 tons. So you can shrink the size, but the mass isn't going to change. And they play with that way too much. Makes it hard for me to accept when they've offered this explanation. I feel like it's better just to say nothing. It gets even worse because somehow we get this magical change in mass, and yet the kinetic energy still acts like the original mass whenever they need it to, like with punching, for example. I can just kind of accept this and move on, but it would be a lot easier for me to do so if they didn't try to explain it. Just like, we developed this tech that shrinks things. Don't say how. Right. Right. I won't even think about it then. So I'll put a pause on my nerd rant for now. But also I had a side note here because I was thinking, isn't this the same idea that they had in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? And it is. And it turns out that in the 1980s, Stan Lee wanted to do an Ant-Man film then, but Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was already in development, and the studio executives thought that it was too similar. They didn't want to have basically two of the same movie. Apparently they hadn't lived through the 90s yet, where every movie, there's two of every movie, right? Like Volcano and Dante's Peak, right?
Deep Impact in Armageddon.
Yep, exactly. But, credit to the comics because Ant-Man was there first, and that started in the 60s, from what I could tell. So anyways, back to the presentation afterwards. After Darren gives his presentation, Mitchell Carson says he wants to buy the tech, but he needs 2 weeks to get money to buy the suit. I don't know why he needs 2 weeks for this.
Says he was shady as hell. I just assumed that he had to launder it properly from whoever he was going to get the money from.
I mean, I guess, yeah, that would make sense. That would be on brand.
Okay.
He also does seem very sketchy to me at this point, finally.
It kicked in.
Yes. In the next scene, we have Scott going to see his kid at her birthday party. I think she's, I don't know, like 6 maybe? What do you think?
Yep. I think she was like around that age,
Yeah.
6, 7.
Something like that.
Some pretty young age when daughters still like totally love their fathers. This whole scene totally got to me as a girl dad myself.
Yes.
But I did love Bobby Cannavale. Cannavale? Cannavale? How do you say his
I
name?
don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, I loved when he was like,
he didn't get an invitation, but he came anyway.
Yeah, he says it all like, because he doesn't want to upset the little girl.
Yeah,
It's great. He's great. I like him a lot. Bobby Cannavale. His character's name, I believe, is Jim Paxton. But I really liked is that he's not the tropey dickhead stepdad, and and he's not like jealous and just a jerk about everything. He's pretty reasonable. And I'm used to seeing him as a bad guy. Did you ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
No, I didn't. That's on my long list of things to also get to at some point.
That one was good for a few seasons, and then it kind of petered out. But anyways, he plays an absolute psychopath in that show. I think he's only in it for a season, but like just super fucked up. Here he's a cop, which does not preclude him from being a bad guy, but he is a pretty decent guy.
Yeah, I feel like I always like him in everything that he is. I don't really know too much about him. The only thing I know about him for sure is that he's lucky to be married to Rose Byrne. I love her.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah,
but I don't remember. Like, was he an ex-Marine or ex-military or something, and then he fell into acting, or just decided to follow his dream into acting?
Isn't that, well, I mean, I guess it could be more than one person, but isn't that Kylo Ren? What's that guy's name?
Oh, that's Adam Driver.
Yeah.
No, but I think I thought it was him too.
Maybe.
It was like another guy.
Could be. He could be. I mean, he seems like he could be an ex-Marine. I don't know.
Oh no, wait, no, I'm thinking about the I'm thinking about the other guy that's also really funny. The coach from 22 Jump Street. That guy was ex-Marine.
Yes, yeah, that guy was definitely a Marine. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That wasn't Bobby Cannavale.
No, what is his name? I can see his face. He's great. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy cracks me up all the time.
I'm gonna have to like edit in his name later or something because this is Zach jumping in again. Rob Riggle is this guy's name, and we were both stupid for not remembering him. Rob Riggle is great. Sorry, Rob Riggle. Yeah. Okay,
never mind. I got them confused.
That dude is definitely ex-military, and he's great. Yeah. Anyways, so Scott's ex is also really great. She's played by Judy Greer. The character's name is Maggie. And I looked into Judy Greer's career. It's kind of a rhyme. And she has worked. She has a lot of credits, which I didn't realize just how many she had. I always like her too in anything I've seen her in. But the one I always think of when I hear her name is Kitty on Arrested Development. Do you remember?
I haven't watched Arrested Development yet.
What?
I know.
Stop recording right now.
It's also on my list.
You don't have to watch those newer seasons. I mean, they're okay, but like the first 3 or 4 seasons that they did in the mid 2000s, something like that. Yeah, those are great. It's like you have to watch them multiple times to catch all the jokes. It's just rapid
That's the one
fire.
with Justin Bateman and Michael Cera, right?
Yes.
I forget what the name of the father is, the patriarch of the family. Who's also really funny.
But the actor,
actor,
he got himself in some trouble. The whole cast though is great. That's a great show. You got to watch that. Anyways, she plays like a secretary. I won't ruin it for you. She's got a very, very small role in like 1 or 2 episodes, but it's memorable. I think I've talked about her enough. We got to move on. This scene is mostly to give some backstory and set up some stuff for later. But it's also motivation for Scott. Like we see he has this daughter that's important to him.
Yep.
And then his ex tells him that he needs to get a job and get an apartment and pay child support. And then he can be involved in Cassie's life, Cassie being his daughter. I'm not sure if that's how it works legally, but in the movie, that's what she says. And it's not as cold as I just made it sound. But he's got to do these things.
I took it as like, she's trying to motivate him to get his ass in gear and to be a good
and to warn him.
Yeah, and to warn him. I mean, and also like she's dating the cop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Cassie's the actress that they have playing Cassie, that kid is like just so cute. I kind of don't get why they switched her up, and then I don't know, she got so annoying to me in the Ant-Man movie, the third Ant-Man movie.
I mean, in the third one, she's supposed to be, I think, like a late teenager or early 20-something. And I'm not sure that the actress was actually that old who played her in the first 2. I didn't do the math or anything, but I know it was a different actress in the third movie.
Right.
But again, you had lowered the bar so low for me on that third Ant-Man movie where
You're welcome.
Yeah, she didn't bother me.
As long as you don't like rank Ant-Man over Iron Man or Ant-Man 3 over Iron Man 1 or something. when we get to that episode.
Probably not. But if you're pissing me off.
Oh yeah, so I think the scene that comes up is in the bathroom, and
That Pimtech?
it's Frank. Yeah, the bathroom in Pimtech, and Frank's in it, and he turns around, and Darren's there handing him a towel.
Yeah,
I
being
think
creepy.
right then I knew Frank is.
Yes. I thought that this was an interesting way to introduce that there are still some bugs in the cross particles shrinking technology.
No pun intended.
They haven't, yeah, exactly. That they haven't worked out yet. Actually, I did kind of intend that pun. But.
Oh, did you?
But yeah, he hits Cross hits Frank with a cross particle, and Frank just shrinks into like this little plop of goo. That kind of shows what lengths Darren is going to go to maintain his power.
I don't know about you, but I kind of had to hold back a gag reflex a little bit when Darren used the paper towel to clean up Frank's remains, because it wasn't like just one color. It was like slightly pink, reddish, and then like yellow.
Yeah. So
I was like, oh.
in the commentary, they talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where right before he wipes it up, it's a digital effect.
Uh-huh.
But then like when he wipes it, it's just like strawberry jam. And then I guess he picked it up and licked it. But they cut that part out. Like it wasn't in the script. He just did it to be gross.
That would have been
I
funny.
hope it wasn't a real bathroom floor too. Oh, that would definitely make me gag. Oh. Anyways, now we go back to Scott. I think he's sitting in the van, and he calculates that it's 377 days until he can see his daughter the way things are going. So that's why he decides that he has to go with the tip that Luis got earlier that he had turned down.
Yeah. So when he meets up with Louise and friends, Louise starts in on that perfect little job description.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like that whole scene, I never get tired seeing
It's
that.
great.
Just how it's filmed, especially how everything is done, but everything's mouthed in Michael Pena's voice.
Yeah, it's all lip sync.
Like,
it's edited really well. And actually, that's something else that they talked about in the commentary.
Yeah.
I guess they let Michael Pena riff,
Mhm.
and then they spent some time editing it down a bit and, making it just right. And then they filmed all the rest of the parts with the actors lip syncing to what Michael Pena had been saying.
That's so awesome.
It's great. It works awesome. I love that scene so much.
Did they say who came up with that bit? Like, was that like a Paul Rudd thing, or they just all worked
I
in
don't know. They didn't say. I would imagine it was probably like outlined at least by Paul Rudd, but I think it was somewhat improvised. But I'm not positive.
So
I could be
awesome.
wrong on that. Yeah. So Luis, sorry, I keep wanting to say Luis. Luis gives him the rundown on this tip that he got, and then they're going to go rob the place that Luis had learned about. And there's a cut scene here where they are first kind of casing the joint, and what they do is they cut the cable to Hank's place, and then they show up as the cable guy to fix it, and it's Paul Rudd being the cable guy, and he's good in it. Paul Rudd is, and it's just he's checking things out. He installs a camera in the cable box and stuff like that, and then they reconnect the cable outside, and like, oh, I fixed it, right?
Right.
But the character of Hank is like pretending to be this old geezer who doesn't know what's going on. And I didn't find it to be convincing at all, and kind of cringy, as the kids say. So I was glad that they cut this one.
That's probably why they cut that.
Yeah. It was also totally unnecessary. It works. Everything works fine without that. They didn't need to case the joint first.
Yeah.
So
The actual burglary itself, Paul Rudd seems to be a very smooth burglar.
yeah, he's got skills. Yeah, once he gets inside, there's a fingerprint scanner, I believe, to get into the basement. It's on the basement door. And he does a trick where he lifts a print from elsewhere in the house with a piece of tape and makes a mold of it with some super glue in a ring, I think.
Yeah.
I found this to be passable. This one did not bother me. It seemed legit enough. I do think that the super glue might have dissolved the tape before it actually set. I'm not positive on that. And I don't really know if the super glue mold would actually trick a fingerprint scanner, but it was good enough for a movie that didn't bother me. I dug it.
Cool. Because yeah, that was actually going to be one of my science questions for you, whether that would have actually like worked or not. Just the whole lifting a fingerprint and then tricking a fingerprint scanner with the little dongle that he had made with glue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend on the scanner. And I think more modern ones, specifically ones that you would even have on like your iPhone, I think they scan deeper than just the fingerprint, but I'm not positive on that. Another thing that I found legitimate enough, though less so, was breaking into the safe that he found in the basement by filling the lock mechanism with water and freezing it with liquid nitrogen. The principles behind the idea are sound. Water does expand when it freezes, which is why it floats. Metal does not expand when it freezes. It actually can contract a little bit. But he didn't use nearly enough liquid nitrogen to freeze all that water. There's no way that would work.
Yeah, like it looked very sped up too.
Yes. But freezing the metal and shattering it, that could have also potentially worked. But I like this craftier MacGyver-like method, and it was definitely quieter than like smashing apart brittle metal, right?
And so he ends up breaking into the safe room and nothing's there except for this motorcycle suit thing. And little does he know that there's a little tiny ant in the corner with a camera attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of Hank Pym's ants with the camera, and his security system would make Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight jealous.
Yeah.
I do like the idea though of this whole thing just being a trick to get him to be the next Ant-Man.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
I liked it too. Then it pans over to another scene where you're in, I guess, Pym Labs or Pym Tech, and Darren's there trying to shrink a lamb, and it does not go well.
No, poor little sheep. I was thinking, could you imagine if Cronenberg had directed this? Like, how gross would it have been then?
I forgot. Was it just like a puddle of yellow reddish goo?
Yeah, it was just kind of like this pulsing blob.
Yeah.
But this, shows that the state of the technology at the cross particles technology anyway at PymTech is not progressing, and also kind of just how cruel Darren is, because he just wants to keep trying more subjects, and he's just willing to squish a bunch of sheep.
Did they ever get into how he even got the inspiration for the cross particles?
No, now that you mention it, I don't think so.
Yes, because not like Hope gave him a vial of Pym particles, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. How did he find out?
That was like one of the things that was on my list of.
I guess, I mean, if I'm thinking about it, what's his name? Mitchell Carson was there at the beginning of the movie, right? So he obviously knew about it. So if he's involved in some way with PymTech or just knows Darren for some reason, he could have given him some information. I don't know.
Yeah. Bro, I wonder, I can't remember now. Did they actually steal a Pym particle from Hank in the beginning? I
don't think so.
He was just mad that they had tried to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was mad that they were trying to copy it.
Okay. So then maybe that research was the basis of the cross.
Yeah.
Cross particles.
Yeah. There, we figured it out. Teamwork. So I guess Scott stole the suit for the heck of it because it was there. Because next thing you know, he's at Luis's place with the suit, and now his B&E is also burglary.
Yep. And then he puts it on, I guess, just because.
I mean, if you're gonna steal it,
yeah, you might as well try it on, right? And it fits him perfectly.
Yeah, that's true. Like that, maybe that's why Hank picked him.
Oh, maybe he sized him up to be pretty similar. But yeah, he accidentally shrinks himself, and then the hilarity ensues.
So after he shrinks down, I thought the miniature is Jesus Christ. I thought the miniaturization effects were pretty good. It does look kind of fake sometimes, specifically when they're showing like a real life object, like there's like a Lego or something being sucked up in a vacuum. It does look a little fake at times like that. But for the most part, everything looks good. And they use like a close focus. So, the foreground is in focus, like Scott in the Ant-Man suit will be in focus. The background is very blurry. I feel like that helps to sell the illusion and probably helps to cover up the fakeness looking of it.
Yeah, probably. Probably also helps save on like special effects. budget.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Michael Douglas starts talking to him through the helmet. And so he's clearly not alone.
Hey, is he watching him? Does he have more ants with cameras?
I kind of feel like that he probably was, or like he had ants following somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But then like he fell through like the floor and landed downstairs in that dance party.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a weird
And so like he just had ants everywhere,
Yeah,
I guess.
I guess
following
so.
him.
At one point he gets flung out a window and he lands on the roof of a car and then rebigulates, and
Right.
the guy in the car kind of looks up and gives a funny look. Did you catch who that is?
I've seen him in a bunch of movies, but I don't know his name.
Garrett Morris.
Who is that? He was in was it The Blob?
Yes. No,
Yeah,
The Stuff.
The Stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like that's the main movie that I know him from. That I remember him from.
But he was a Saturday Night Live featured character. What do they call it? Featured player. In like the first few seasons, and there was one bit that they did where it was like a superhero party, and he played Ant-Man, and that was technically the first time Ant-Man was on screen. So that's why I had him in there. I was like, that's a pretty deep dive, and what I really like about that is it shouldn't really take you out of the movie because nobody knows that, right? But I know that actor. And I was like, why did they choose him for that 2 seconds? And so then I had to look into it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like, I think that whole scene was pretty awesome. And he's basically panicking the whole time because he's tiny and he can't wrap his head around what went on. And as soon as he rebigulates himself, he goes back and tries to return the suit. And then he gets caught.
Yeah, I don't understand why he didn't just throw the suit away, or if he really wanted to give it back, why didn't he just toss it over the fence? He was going to try to break in and put it back in the safe that he broke, or I don't know what the plan was there.
I don't get that either. Like, yeah, because the safe was already broken.
Right. I mean, it seemed like a really obvious way to get caught, and he did. So he gets arrested, and this is where you actually find out that his ex-wife's new boyfriend or husband, I don't know if they're married or not, but that's when you find out that he's a cop, because he's the one who arrests him. And then his partner is, I didn't even write down the partner's name, but I just know him as Avon Barksdale from The Wire. Have you not watched The Wire too?
I have watched The Wire. I just don't remember his character.
Yeah,
I thought maybe his character was the guy, the Soul Glow guy from Coming to America.
No, that's
another guy, right?
Yeah, that's the guy who was on ER to Eric LaSalle.
Oh yeah. Okay,
they do kind of look.
Totally different
guy. Wood Harris is the name of the actor in this, who also plays Avon Barksdale. They do look like they could be related, not just because they're both black. But what was I saying? Avon Barksdale. He's like the head of the whole drug dealing group in The Wire. Idris Elba is, arguably his partner in that. Anyways,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Like I watched The Wire like so long ago. So
I've
blanking.
rewatched it a number of times, especially the first few seasons. Like the first couple of seasons are really awesome.
Yeah.
So he's in jail. Scott Lang is in jail. Hank shows up pretending to be his lawyer and breaks him out. And he does this by obscuring the jail security cameras with ants, controlling the ants to cover him up. And then he sends in the shrunken suit via some ants. The ants carry it in, and then they unshrink it or rebigulate it, as we've been stealing the term from The Simpsons. And then the ants are doing like a countdown. They're like information, making different numbers. And it gets to 8 before he does anything. And there's no way he would have got the suit on in 8 seconds.
That was another problem I had. Yeah.
And also, how does...
Because it's leather, right? Like it's also...
Yeah,
it's
there's
not
no way
like
that's
it's
going on that fast.
Jeans.
But also, how does Hank know when Wood Harris's character is about to walk by? Because that's what happens. Like when it gets down to 0, he walks by and then he doesn't see Scott in the cell anymore because he's gotten in the suit and shrunk down. Anyways, I'm really nitpicking here.
Oh no, that one did annoy me, actually.
Okay, good. So it's not just me. So everybody is like that. I do like the idea of all this, though, controlling the various kinds of ants and whatnot, to help Scott escape, because there's some flying ants that he helps him get out on. helps him break out with. And I do like that this is not really an origin story. And we didn't really need that origin story. I feel like if they tried to do this set in the 60s or whatever with the original Ant-Man, quote unquote, I don't know if it would have worked as well.
I mean, it's kind of an origin story while telling the previous, while sort of sneaking in,
it's like a reboot story.
Relevant information. Yeah, it's like a reboot origin something.
Sequel story.
Yeah, I like it.
Something.
I like the whole setup.
It's something, yeah. It's different, which is good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I think around this mark is like about 40 minutes. And then that 40 minutes passed by so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. This movie is pretty breezy.
Yep. So he fell off I was trying to remember exactly what happened. He fell off Anthony, or the ant that becomes Anthony. And he wakes up in Hank's house.
Mm-hmm.
And Hope's watching him.
Yep.
And then I like that Hank and him are talking, and Hank says something.
This is not some cute technology like the Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
That's like a pretty cute dig
at
the Iron Man suit, which I guess is really fascinating because if the Iron Man suit is cutesy in comparison to the Pym particles, then that shows how much more you should be respecting Hank and the science of everything that he's come up with.
Yeah, I agree. It turns out that Hope is the one who had Scott arrested, which kind of plugged the plot hole for me because I was thinking it was pretty convoluted to have Scott.
But the cops just
arrested.
happened to be there.
Well, just not so much that they happened to be there. Like, they could have been staking out the place because a lot of times criminals return to the scene of the crime and whatnot. But to have him arrested because you want him to become the next Ant-Man didn't make sense to me, and that's not what Hank wanted. Hope had him arrested and kind of threw a wrench into the works. So
she was actually trying to sabotage Hank's plan.
Yeah.
So Hope and I guess all three of them. Hope starts arguing, and she wants to do the mission instead of Scott. But then Hank just loses it and yells no. And I guess Hank starts talking about how he's also spent years wearing the suit, and that's why he can't wear it because it's taken some sort of a toll on him. But they never kind of explain what the toll is or like what happened to his body.
They sure don't. The whole thing strikes me kind of as hand waving. Yeah. I feel like they needed a reason to make it appear like it's not a sexism, chauvinism thing. Like, you can't do it because you're a woman, which, I appreciate that that's not the reason why, but they don't really follow through on that at all. On the, the suit, took a toll on me. It's never followed up on. And in the third movie, Quantumania, aren't they in the quantum world all the time with like helmets off?
Yep.
Yeah. So they just kind of threw that out the window.
Yeah, because I think there's a part in the movie later on where doesn't Hope try to explain that like Darren's actually being affected by the cross particles?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like this isn't you. This is the cross. This is the Pym particles.
Yeah. She has a line like she says it's affecting his brain chemistry or something.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember. I had a complaint about that. But I don't even think he's been in the suit up to that point because maybe I think I got to wait till I get there. Darren Cross, who she says that.
Oh
to. Yeah. But we'll cover that when we get to it. I definitely have a note in there later about it.
Sorry,
but,
didn't mean to
no, that's
get
okay.
you started.
That's okay. You got me all fired up. Here, Hank does give a bunch of exposition about the Pym particle shrinking and whatnot, in which he says, oh, here's part of it. It can affect brain chemistry if you aren't protected by a proper suit. And I'm a little bit like, how? Like why? It seems like something that's just made up so that Darren can be the ultimate bad guy later on. But he's already pretty bad, right? We've seen what he did to Frank, and that was just essentially slaughtering sheep.
It makes a bad guy worse.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of bothers me that he didn't explain how it can affect brain chemistry, but also, to use my own argument against me, don't try to explain something that you can't explain. Right. But here I feel like you just totally didn't need it. It sets up inconsistencies for later, and I feel like they should have just left that out. So
yeah, it was like an unneeded breadcrumb.
Yeah. So Hank tells Scott that everyone deserves a shot of redemption. And then this is the line.
My favorite scene.
Yes, my days of breaking into places and stealing shit are over. Then Hank immediately says, I want you to break into a place and steal some shit. Scott's response to everything that Hank has told him about Darren is that he thinks they should call him the Avengers, which I thought was funny. He's like, first of all, I think we should call them the Avengers. Hank doesn't want Stark to get the tech because recall at the beginning of the movie, he didn't want Howard Stark to get the tech. Why would he want Tony Stark to? And then there's a little bit of a callback to the Sokovia problem in Age of Ultron. Where Hank says that...
Besides, they're probably too busy dropping cities out of the sky.
Which is also a little bit of breadcrumbs for Civil War. I also found that this was a convenient way to explain why an Avenger isn't just swooping in and saving the day here. Right. Hank specifically does not want them involved.
Yeah, I think this is the scene where Hank also has like a pretty sweet speech about how Scott has to become the hero. That his daughter already thinks that he is. And it's not about saving our world, it's about saving theirs.
Yeah.
And right when I was like, damn, that was a good speech, Paul Rudd said exactly that.
yes.
I was like and then we enter into a training montage where the suit has power and then the man has to harness that power. I thought this was just an okay training montage. This is the beginning of the training montage fails, right?
Yeah.
And then Scott's also starting to putz around with the regulator. And he gets the speech about how if he fucks with it, he risks falling into the quantum realm.
Yeah, there's a bit of foreshadowing. Hank says, you could go quantum and shrink for all eternity. And I feel another nerd rant coming on. So again, if we're shrinking atoms, if that were somehow possible, once they get small enough, it's just gonna become a ball of neutrons. Like that's actually what happens in a neutron star. If I'm really trying to rationalize this, I guess maybe protons and neutrons and electrons are all made up of subatomic particles like muons and gluons and bosons, and maybe there's space between those that can also be shrunk. Okay, sure. If I'm being super pedantic, which I'm usually am, can you do anything for all eternity though? Right? He says you can shrink for all eternity. I'm like, no, not all eternity. No, you die at some point, right? like the Sarlacc pit taking 1,000 years to digest you in Star Wars. I'm sure everybody got that reference. I hope. And there may not even be eternity. Like nobody knows what's going to happen. One of the theories is the universe stops expanding and eventually starts contracting, and you get what's called the big crunch, and everything's going to go back to a singularity at some point, and everything starts over. So, anyways, that is pretty super nerdy, pedantic. I admit, not ruining the movie for me, but I did have that thought.
It's okay. That all went over my head, a good chunk of it, except for the Sarlacc.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody had a good nap.
So anyway, the Hope fighting scenes were pretty funny, I thought.
Yes. I like the part where she's teaching him to punch and punches him right in the face. He's like,
were you going for the hand?
Right. Because he was like doing the whole like, show me how you punch. She punched him in the face.
It was a good punch. It was they sold it.
Yep.
But get ready for another nap, George, because I have some more science gripes, specifically regarding this punching. Actually, she explains that when Scott is small, he'll have the force of a 200-pound man behind a fist that is 1/100th of an inch wide, and she says you're like a bullet. Okay. Side note: this is not really my complaint, but there's no way he's 200 pounds. He's like 5'10". He's not that built.
He got all muscly.
He's not that built. Like, okay. But anyways, so she says energy is compressed, which is not a thing that happens. And then she says that you need to know how to punch so you don't kill someone.
Right.
Which makes sense. I follow that. But then she says like too soft and it's like a love tap. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like it would have to be super duper soft. Right. I feel like going too soft should not be the focus here. Then she trains him to punch hard after that. So like, I don't know. That didn't make any sense. I don't even think that's a science rant. That's like a logic rant. I guess. I don't know.
Right. Like then she should be teaching him control, not.
Yes. Perfect.
Not power.
Yes, exactly. And then like the rest of the movie is punching really hard. So I don't know. I feel like they didn't follow through with their own rules on that.
Yeah. Then you get a complimentary shirtless scene because Paul Rudd needs to show off his new Marvel body.
Highly complimentary.
And then Hank introduces Scott to the shrinking and growing discs.
Yes, and it's around here, I think, where he names one of the flying ants Anthony, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah. And then Hope loses it. I think this is where the coffee ants fell apart, or Scott couldn't control the coffee ants.
Yeah.
Getting the sugar.
Right.
And she loses it, tells him that he's an idiot, and she needs to do the mission, and then Hank just yells at her and says that she can't.
Yeah, I feel like they missed an opportunity here, or not necessarily missed an opportunity. I feel like they hinted at Hope having some kind of darker, psyche, something about her feelings and intentions are kind of a little bit on the dark side, because she is trying to show Scott what to do, right? And she takes the little ear thingy so she can control the ants. And then she just takes it like way too far, where they're blocking out all the lights and all the windows, and it's kind of spooky, and then never followed up on.
I just took it as like she was getting angry that she wasn't the one going on the mission, and then the ants were responding to that.
Yes, but like it was a little bit like, again, to bring up a Star Wars reference, but it was a little bit like, she was letting the anger flow through her, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I got that vibe.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I guess Scott jumps into the car while Hope is chilling in it, or I guess trying to cool down in the car.
Yeah.
And he talks to her enough to loosen her up, and she gives him a tip on how to control the ants. And then a bunch of ants just start crawling into her car, and I was like, what the hell are ants doing in your car?
I have had ants in my car.
Did you really?
Yeah, 0 out of 10. I would not recommend. It was like on a vacation too, like in almost a brand new car. I'm not sure how it happened. Yeah, we must have parked on an anthill. It sucked.
Wait, how did you get them out? Did you have to fumigate the car?
A lot of Windex, and then to get them like out of the car, and then I took it to like a hand wash car place, but you do it yourself, and it had like the power washer, and I was just like blasting out all the cracks. It was annoying.
But like, was it inside too?
Yeah, they were inside. They were inside. I didn't blast the inside. No, I just used a bunch of Windex for that. But like, I didn't know how many were in the cracks of the doors and whatnot. So I was just blasting it out. Oh, it was a nightmare. Anyways, Scott tells Hope that he's expendable, and that's why he's in the suit and not her, which makes sense. So definitely not a sexism thing, right? Hope.
I took it as it's a father-daughter thing, and the father wanting to protect his daughter at all costs.
As the father of a daughter, I will take your word that
yes,
you are the expert here in that.
I'm gonna girl dad you on it.
Hope tries to coach Scott up on controlling the ants, and she says to control the ants, you have to clear your mind. You have to make your thoughts precise. And then she says, think about your daughter Cassie and how much you want to see her, and use that to focus. And like,
that made no sense to me.
Does she know what the word focus means? Like, that seems like a huge distraction to me.
Right.
But then Scott tries again, and oh my God, is it another science scrape already?
Man, are we gonna be butting heads on where this movie ends up in the list?
We might. I specifically did not include that in my notes.
Okay,
that is separate. But anyways, so this one they did to themselves, because with all the facts that they were spouting throughout the movie,
right?
Scott controls 4 ants to pick up a penny and spin it. Mm-hmm. Right. The largest ants weigh about 5 milligrams. And they, according to the movie and according to real facts, they can lift up to 50 times their own weight. Okay,
right.
No problem with that. A penny weighs 2.5 grams, though. So we got 4 ants times 5 milligrams times 50-fold excess is 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram. And a penny weighs 2.5 grams, so they would need at least 10 ants to lift it, which is a super nerdy minor nitpick, but also would have been a really easy fix. Just put another 6 ants in that scene. Or was the budget only for 4? I don't know. Even worse, I didn't catch this till later. The sugar cubes earlier on, which weigh way more than a penny, and there's like one ant carrying them up and like plopping them in the coffee.
So when did you catch the sugar cubes?
And when I was watching the commentary later on, and then I don't remember why I caught it that time, but I was just like, oh, There's just one ant picking up. Like, how much does a sugar cube weigh? And it's like 5 grams or something.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yep. Huh. If they're going to throw facts out there, I'm going to check them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. They did it to themselves, but I definitely think these movies are geared more towards people like me who sciencey enough to be able to be distracted by the hand waving, and not sciencey enough to be able to be distracted by the hand waving. But if it just sounds somewhat logically sound on the surface,
right,
then it's good enough for me.
Well, also, like if this was the first time I was watching it in the movie theater, it's not. I'm not gonna pull out my phone and start checking stuff right then.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, so Hank actually does tell Hope about the mission that took the Wasp away, and he tells her, "Your mom died a hero, and I spent the next 10 years trying to learn all I could about the quantum realm." And then they have like this really sweet moment, and then Scott ruins it by doing the whole like,
"This is awesome. It's awesome. You know, you guys are breaking down walls. You're healing. It's important." I ruined the moment, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yes.
And then that just totally cracked me up.
It was a good scene.
It's a total Paul Rudd scene.
Mm-hmm. More nerd gripes in the story that Hank tells Hope about her mom. He says that she, quote unquote, goes quantum to disable the missile. So like she has to go through, I guess the missile is made out of titanium, and the only way through the titanium is to shrink smaller than the molecules, smaller than the atoms or whatever.
Are missiles made out of titanium? That seems like a very expensive
missile. It does
missile.
seem like an expensive missile. I don't know. I don't really know. I should have checked that fact. Anyways, but if she's shrunk down small enough to go in between the atoms of the titanium, how did she deactivate the bomb? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's even worse later on, which we will get to. I never forget a gripe. Just kind of side note here, the actress in the Wasp suit in that flashback of them on the missile is Haley Lovett, and she's a stand-in reference for the de-aged Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne in Ant-Man 2.
Did they know that they wanted Michelle Pfeiffer for Janet?
No, not at the... Well, sorry, they didn't have her cast yet. I don't think that they knew they were going to make a sequel yet. But the director did say something to the effect of he had her in mind to play Janet if they were going to do a sequel. All right, that's you.
Oh no, sorry. I was having a mini flashback of Michelle Pfeiffer.
Do you need a moment?
No. Yeah, so this is one of the scenes that I wasn't a big fan of. So they need a prototype of a signal decoy to help break into Darren's labs. And the only place that Hank remembers this signal decoy being in is at this, I think some old warehouse. And then it turns out that the old warehouse, as Scott and the ants are breaking into it, is the new Avengers facility that, the one that we see at the end of Age of Ultron. So Hank and Hope are like, abort the mission. And Scott's like, I can do this. Right. And he lands over there and he just decides to keep going along with the break-in. And then the Falcon swings by because the sensor got tripped. And so I don't know, this whole part started this whole scene started annoying me because so there are no bugs over there, or if there are bugs and they trip the sensors, then the Falcon guy comes out all the time to check on what tripped the sensors. I see
what you're complaining about now. Yeah, that's valid. Yeah.
And then there's also the whole those goggles can track Ant-Man.
That part didn't bother me.
It didn't, because
I feel
they just look like goggles to me.
Well, I mean, he tracks stuff all the time in Civil War with the goggles. So, but I get your gripe now though with how is the whatever sensor that got tripped? How does that not tripped all the time?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess if it's
like my Ring camera when a tree moves and it gets it says motion in the backyard and it's just trees.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. I guess if I was reaching, I would say that the Ant-Man suit has like a bunch of metal and stuff in it, and an insect likely does not.
Right.
But
maybe.
But it's still, I don't know. That's a good point. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. I don't know why, but like I guess something about it being the Falcon and then this Ant-Man versus Falcon fight just seems so silly.
It
like,
does get a little goofy.
You know, like I just thought
I mostly liked
it. Why did he even grow? He should have just kept knocking him out and punching him as Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Instead of growing, and then you grow, you risk being punched out because you're the same size, and then in that scenario, the Falcon would have the advantage the entire time.
Yep. No, I agree. I didn't really thought about that, but
anyway, Ant-Man ends up beating up Falcon, and then they get the signal decoy.
Yep. I do like at the end of it, I guess importantly, Ant-Man disables Falcon's suit without having to go quantum.
Yeah.
But then, Falcon's laying on the ground and he's talking to whoever he was talking to the whole time on his comm. He's like,
It's really important to me that Cap never finds out about this.
Yeah.
Then back at Hank's house, Hank and Scott and Hope are there, and they get a surprise visit from creepy Darren.
Yeah, Darren's in the living room, and he was like, "You left the front door open, Hank." I never understand like people leaving their doors just unlocked.
Yeah, I
don't know if that's a thing.
I think it's a genius movie thing. It's like oh, they're so like occupied with these higher thoughts that they're forgetful about simple things like closing your door and locking it.
Anyway,
okay. Did you catch the continuity error here, where Darren's there in the living room dressed like he's going to murder somebody because he's like all in leather and has leather gloves on, right? And
no, I missed that.
And then they're talking. Hank and Darren are talking. Hope is hiding because she doesn't want Darren to know that she's there.
Right.
And then they do a couple of cuts back and forth between the two actors. And then all of a sudden Darren puts his hand on Hank's shoulder and he has no gloves on.
No, I totally missed it. I can't believe I missed that. I did like the whole, the dialogue between the two of them where Darren's like,
all those years ago, you picked me. What did you say?
I saw myself.
Why did you push me away?
Because I saw too much of myself.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought that was pretty good. Because I was always like, what? Like, why would you pick this dude as your protege of all the people, And so I thought that was a pretty good explanation for that the whole time.
That was good. Shortly after that, Darren leaves and then calls Hope and says that he wants to up security because he's worried that, I guess he says he thinks Hank's going to do something to sabotage the suit, something like that. Anyways.
Yeah.
So they need some extra help and they rope in Lewis and Dave and Kurt to help to steal the Yellow Jacket suit and destroy the research. And I don't understand why not just destroy all of it. Like, why do they need to steal the Yellow Jacket suit? Because they make a big deal out of needing to get the suit. But it seems like it'd be easier to just like call in a bomb threat to evacuate the building and then blow it up, right?
Yeah.
And then
just have the ants put in C4 across everything.
Yeah. And
all the way around.
It could still not work out, and the rest of the movie could still take place pretty much as is. But
right.
But anyways, back to the plan. Scott calls in Luis and Kurt and Dave, and
for help.
Yeah, for help. And Hank is not super stoked about that.
Yeah. When he said, no, not those three wombats, I just kind of straight cracked up with that line.
It's a interesting insult. And again, Lewis is the best part of this movie, man. Just the way he stands there with the vacant smile all the time.
Yep.
Scott demonstrates the suit for Luis and company, we'll just say.
I didn't really like, was it Kurt?
Yeah.
When he was like, this is the work of gypsies. I just thought that whole thing kind of derailed and went overboard with the reactions.
That didn't bother me. He's, Eastern European or whatever. Well, he's got, I thought it was in this one, but he's got a line in the second one. It is where he says something about the Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga, yeah.
Which is, the Eastern European boogeyman.
or John Wick.
Woman. Yes, that's true too.
But I did like the don't freak out, look over your shoulder, and then Luis, of course, freaks out.
Yep.
When he sees Scott there.
So they come up with a plan, and the plan seems okay. I have no complaints there. For Scott to get in, he has to go in through a water pipe, and they need to turn off the water. Luis gets into the building dressed as a security guard.
But so Darren starts his presentation, and he's selling to people who are basically Hydra representatives, we find out.
Yep.
And so I guess Hydra is still alive and well in the MCU. That part I kind of missed when we were the first time around, I think.
What's thanks to Martin? I was like, who?
Because Martin's the guy, the shady government guy.
Oh, Mitchell.
Oh, Mitchell.
All right.
Mitchell. Yeah.
I was like, who's Martin? Anyway.
Yeah. So Mitchell is funding, I guess, working with them.
Right. And it must be 2 weeks later because Mitchell Carson is there and has the money. It looks like.
Yep. Yeah. And then there was like a random screw loose that just falls down and proves that the lasers are working. That didn't bug you?
No, I feel like that was believable. That there's anybody working for Darren Cross, you think they give a fuck about like the quality of work? I'm sure just a random screw laying around, not that big a deal. I got to give Darren credit here because I've seen the movie a bunch of times, and he fooled me again. I was kind of like, man, this guy's an idiot. Like when he's at Hank's house earlier, and I was like, how does he not know what's going on here? And he did. He knew it all along, and he was setting a trap basically. I don't know how he figured out that it was Scott Lang in the Ant-Man suit.
That I don't know either. Yeah.
And I do feel like it was a pretty big gamble to assume that they'd be able to get past the updated security, especially the laser grid.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if he didn't get past the laser grid, the suit and Scott Lang would have been zapped and like wiped out and no more competition. So I guess either way it works in his favor.
Right.
Probably would have
I guess to your point though, like how did he find out it was Scott Lang? Because then he knew where his daughter lived because that sets up that whole big fight.
Yep.
But
I don't know.
That's a big hole.
He says something about, then you mysteriously disappear from jail. And I'm like, okay, so maybe that's how he figured out that it's Scott. But how did he find out that he mysteriously disappeared from jail?
Right.
So I don't know. I guess maybe Mitchell Carson working, being Hydra could feed him information that regular people don't have access to. I don't know. It did stand out to me as being weird.
Right.
So here's the part where Hope tells Darren that the particles have been altering his brain chemistry. But as far as we know, he has not even been using the suit because he only recently got the cross particles working, right? To be able to shrink something without squishing it.
Right.
So I assume that he hadn't used the actual suit up until that point, and they never show him in it. I mean, I guess they kind of wanted to save that reveal, but I don't know. But again, I just didn't think that whole it alters your brain chemistry thing was necessary. He was already plenty evil.
Right. There is one continuity error, or not logic error that annoyed me. Just when everything is about to blow up, did you catch how like Lewis like backtracks to get the security boss?
Yeah.
That he had knocked out earlier.
Yeah.
For the pipe.
Uh-huh.
But then he totally just knocked out the guys that were shooting at Scott Lang, and he doesn't save them. He saves that one guy.
Yeah.
So that kind of bugged me.
That's a great catch. Scene. I did not catch that before, but now that I think about it, the security boss did not shoot at him. Was not trying to kill him, whereas these other two guys were. So maybe he's like, I'm gonna save this one dude. But that's funny.
But I mean, the security guard took out. Didn't he try to fight him?
I don't know, but he didn't try to kill him. So I don't know. I'm again grasping at straws here. Just for conversation. I did not catch that whatsoever. Those two dudes are definitely dead.
Yep.
But what happened to Mitchell Carson here? Because they start to have everybody starts to fight in that room, and you see him get the little bottle of the cross particles, but Darren still has the suit, and then he kind of just disappears. So is he still out there with a bunch of cross particles?
He must have that jar, right? He has a cross particle sample.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll
and
come,
it works.
I wonder if he's also going to come back in like the Thunderbolts or something.
Oh, maybe.
It'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
actually, that's not entirely far fetched, right?
Right? Well, because they're bringing back not Brainiac, but what's the guy? Leader? Is that his name?
The leader, the leader.
Yeah, he's coming back for.
Yeah.
I think it's Thunderbolts that he's in. He's coming back in something anyway.
Yeah. Huh.
So,
yeah, I actually didn't. I actually totally missed where Mitchell just disappearing.
Yeah. Anyways, Darren is getting away in a helicopter. He's not flying it. There's a pilot and there's a couple other people in the helicopter with him. And he has the yellow jacket suit. And Scott pursues after him in ant mode. So he's shrunk down and he's got a swarm of flying ants that he's going after this helicopter with. And then Darren is just firing a gun wildly at these insects. And Anthony gets shot, which is a super lucky shot by Darren. And also super lucky that he didn't just take Scott Lang's legs off too, because he was riding Anthony at the time. And then you get the swell of sad music because Anthony died. And I was just like, it didn't really bother me. Like, I wasn't happy about it, but it's like, yeah, it's just a flying ant. You know, I feel like it wasn't, they hadn't earned that yet.
Yeah.
How did Ant-Man fly up to the windows of a helicopter that's in flight, like under the rotor on a flying ant? Like it just would have gotten blown away immediately.
I wondered that too when I first watched it. I was like, there's no way an ant, regardless of how strong its wings are, would be able to go against the rotors of the helicopter.
No, and I even started to look into it and like try to like do some calculations. I was like, this isn't even worth my time. There's no way.
Yeah.
I've complained enough. I've been nerdy enough on this one.
Oh man, you're starting to bring this down for me. But yeah, because like I did like the whatever the hell that bomb was that Hank Pym used to blow up the lab. Because when the ants were deploying the bombs that they were using, it looked like C4. Was it like C4 and then there was something else that was also in the bomb?
I don't know what it was. So I did like the explosion itself was really cool. It kind of was a little bit like the black hole grenades in Thor 2. So like everything just kind of collapses. But yeah, I had the same question. I didn't even know where the bomb came from. It kind of took me, and I've seen the movie before. Like it kind of took me by surprise. I guess that was Hank's plan all along because he wants to destroy the research, right? Because getting rid of the suit is only going to set Darren back. It won't stop him. But there was,
I mean, it's better than Tony Stark throwing his arc reactor into the ocean.
Yes.
Right.
But there was zero talk of blowing things up before this. Hank does say we need to destroy all the data, but even though they blew it up, there's got to be cloud backups, right? Somebody's taking home duplicates for safety,
right?
Like
offsite backups.
Yeah, exactly. There is one scene in the second training montage where Hank is making something that kind of looks like a bomb, and then he shrinks it, and that's it. That is the only hint that you get of a bomb in the whole movie up to this point. And again, if the plan was to blow everything up, why are they bothering trying to steal the suit in the first place?
Right.
Just blow that up as well.
They should have just black hole grenaded it in the first place.
And so it turns out though that whole effect of everything kind of having that black hole bomb thing, it's not the bomb that's causing it. It's that he's blowing up all the cross particles, and the cross particles are shrinking everything as everything's exploding. Which was what I was thinking, and then Peyton Reed in the commentary actually confirmed that. So, but I had never caught that before. I don't know why I didn't think about like why does it shrink down to a point essentially as it explodes. So, and you can see that the bomb is on like these yellow things that are probably the cross particles.
Got it. Huh. Yeah. I liked the fight in the helicopter.
Yeah, I mean it's out of control.
That was really cool. Yeah. I love that when Darren said, "I'm gonna screaming, I'm gonna disintegrate you" in the suitcase, and then Siri activates. I guess somebody has an iPhone, and Siri plays "Disintegration" by The Cure inside of the suitcase. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
I couldn't find Disintegration by The Cure inside of the suitcase in your Apple Music library. You can ask me to play a radio station.
My iPad just
That's funny.
One of my computers or iPads decided to answer.
We had to know that was going to happen. I was going to say, yeah, again, in the commentary, they talked about what songs they could have done that for. And they had a few other ones. I don't remember what they were, though. But that was definitely the best idea, though, that they had. So good they went with that one.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then they I guess they land in the pool, and then Scott uses a ping pong paddle to smack Darren into the bugs after.
Yes, that was pretty awesome.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I like that. But of course he's not dead.
Of course not. And then I guess Cassie is in trouble, where Darren goes over to Cassie's house, and while Scott is in the cop car with Bobby Cannavale, they get the phone call, and then they all rush over. And I thought that Scott putting his head into the helmet while being tied up, I thought that was pretty. I don't think I've ever been able to do that with a motorcycle helmet.
Have you tried?
So I thought that was pretty.
Try it right now on camera.
No, I got rid of it.
Oh, yeah.
I got rid of it as soon as I had kids.
Yeah, you know what? Smart move. Yeah, so that was another thing on the commentary. I guess it took multiple takes to do that and get the helmet on, and I guess he like hurt his ear really bad on one of them.
Oh wow.
But what was Darren? What was his plan here to go threaten Scott's kid? Like, was he gonna kill her for some kind of revenge? I don't know. It was weird. I guess if his brain is being affected by cross particles, he's not thinking straight. But
right, like he was gonna scare her until her dad showed up, and then he would beat her up and beat him up. I mean, I don't know.
Apparently, well, whatever, it worked because Scott shows up.
Yes. And then the train set fight happens, and I love that train set fight.
They're fighting in her room, and she has a Thomas the Toy train going around on the track. That whole thing was great. And the best part, obviously, is when Darren is stuck in front of the train, and it's about to hit him, because like they're both shrunk down to miniature size, right? And so it looks like a full size train about to hit him, and then you get the POV from like a normal view, and it's just like the train just is like dink, and it just falls over.
Yeah,
that's
so good.
That was a great gag. That's really funny.
That yellow jacket suit though looks really good.
It does. It's pretty cool. It's definitely has a menacing look to it. That was very cool.
It's great. Yeah. Whoever designed it and came up with that design.
Agreed. So Scott is trying to get Darren back to normal size to make him easier to fight, and so he's throwing the grow discs at him, right? Throwing the grow discs at the yellow jacket suit, and Darren's just batting them away, right? And one of them hits the ant, and the ant grows to a big size, right? And the other one hits the Thomas the Toy train, and that grows big. But he is backhanding the fuck out of those things. Like, how did it not break when he hits it?
Man, this is starting to slip down in the order for me because of all of these little things. I didn't realize that. You're right.
But it is funny when the one that hits the ant, you get the huge ant, and it runs down the stairs and outside, and Wood Harris, he's like,
"That's a messed up looking dog."
that made me laugh. Yeah.
And I'm not done with my nerd gripes. He does get Darren to go back to normal size. I forget how exactly, not important. And Scott's still small, and he's trying to break into the pack on the back of the yellow jacket suit so he can destroy the suit, basically stop it from working.
Right.
And Darren's like, "It's titanium, you idiot." And then of course everybody's supposed to be like, "Oh, the titanium missile," right?
Right.
But the problem is not that it's specifically titanium. It's like just about any metal is going to cause the same problem, right? You can't go straight through it. If it was made out of aluminum foil, sure, you could rip it open. But
yeah.
So then Scott's like, "I'm going to have to shrink between the molecules to get in there." And I'm like, like there's not a single gap in that whole suit you can squeeze into. I'm like, he just took out the Falcon suit, not having to shrink down to, quantum size or whatever. And I just, spoiler alert, I already watched Civil War, and he gets into Tony's suit. Yeah. So I don't know, that whole thing didn't make sense. They needed to come up with a better reason, or just skip the whole quantum thing. We didn't really need it. But anyways, so then he futzes with the regulator and starts shrinking down to quantum, whatever it is. He just keeps shrinking. He gets into the suit, And he's clearly way bigger than the molecules. He's like the size of the wires in the electronics, and he's just wrecking things as he continues to shrink. So that whole thing just makes no sense about needing to be small enough to squeeze through.
Right.
And then the suit malfunctions and it collapses down into a point or whatever. Like, I don't know. It gets super duper small, right? The whole suit just shrinks down, and he doesn't get squished with that. And I guess maybe he shrunk fast enough where he didn't get squished. I don't know.
Well, he just kept shrinking, and then he shrank through the suit collapsing in on itself, right?
That's fine. Yeah. I'll give you that one. Yeah. Right. But then it's a full minute of him shrinking before they show him shrink down past an actual atom. Like they have like this dumb atom model like that an atom doesn't really look like, but whatever. So why did you put that in there? Because the whole thing was he had to be smaller than that to be able to get through the suit. Like that's already happened. Anyways, that was like the peak of my nerd rage in this.
Yeah, not quite as nerdy, but I don't get why you can set the regulator to go subatomic, but you don't have a switch to go backwards and grow again.
Yeah, please pile on to this. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's like having a reverse, having the reverse in your car, but not having drive.
Well, it's the when I said debigulator before, it's the same thing from that. Or I guess we were saying rebigulate. That Simpsons thing where it's like the very idea of which would be preposterous, like to be able to get big again. Yeah, I think they just needed it to be that way, and that is a problem. You are correct.
Also, I don't know about you, but I didn't really like the quantum realm visualizations. Kind of felt like I could do away with it. I would have been okay with just black space.
Yeah, we didn't need
like a void.
I think although that was probably with the 3D, it was for the 3D effect, right? When you saw it in the theater. But yeah, I agree. Interestingly, in the commentary during this shrinking part, the director says something about like if you look closely.
Yeah.
And I forget what he said. He didn't specifically say there's an Easter egg, but he's like, there might be something there. And so it's like, now I gotta like go frame by frame. I don't know if you can see. Something? Do you see like the figure kind of where the red and the blue meet? You can see a figure. It kind of looks like Hope in the Wasp suit. Could be Janet, I suppose. That would make more sense.
Oh,
you see, like it's like figure. That's one frame.
It's sitting on a rock, right? It looks like there's somebody sitting on a rock.
I thought it looked more like she was being crucified, but yeah, sitting on a rock, sure. But yeah, there's like one frame before this, you can still see it, but it's less clear, and it happens like when he's shrinking down, and then later on when he goes back to the regular size, and then I was like, did I just go through all that trouble just for that? It's just nothing. That's the only thing that I could see. Anyways. Luckily, jamming.
Thank you, by the way, for following up on these commentary tracks and then going in and obsessing about it enough to look into it.
Yeah,
this is exactly why I don't listen to commentary tracks.
Yeah, I have an illness. Luckily, jamming a grow disc in the regulator lets him go back to exactly the right size.
I have that on my list of gripes of like, I don't get it. Like you need to use the dial to dial yourself down to subatomic, but just jamming that disc into the regulator throws you exactly to where you started.
Good enough.
Not too big, not too small. No. Just
he could be off by like 1% or 2%, and I guess we wouldn't know. But But yeah, pretty close to the right size. Anyways, so all that's over. He's back to mostly normal size, if not normal. Everything's happy. So in the aftermath, Scott does not get sent back to jail because of a technical glitch. What's his name? Paxton, played by Bobby Cannavale, says that like some cameras got fried. And he says that he told the captain that Scott was processed correctly. So he is a decent guy. But also, like, what about the crime that Scott committed? Like, how does processing him correctly and some cameras got fried mean he is free now? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. I'm not a lawyer, though. Actually, now that I think about it, what he should have said is like he was not processed correctly. Like, oh, I didn't read him his Miranda rights. So, something like that probably would have made more sense.
That would have made more sense, right?
Yeah. But again, not a lawyer.
Right. Yeah. So Hank is impressed that Scott made it all the way to the quantum realm and back, and starts wondering, is it possible? And then they zoom in on a picture of Hank and Hope as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, like, Janet's face was totally hidden, but like, yeah, so they didn't cast Michelle Pfeiffer.
Not yet. I'm not sure. I wonder if I think it might have been that same actress that was Janet in the suit. But yeah, obviously they obscured the face so they didn't have to commit to anything. Yeah. Yeah.
The ending has Falcon looking for Ant-Man through another awesome Lewis.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Formatted he said she said story thing, which is, man, just so awesome. I love it. And this time Stan Lee has a cameo on this one.
Yep. I actually had a false memory of this one.
Oh, yeah?
At the end of his story, he says that's talking about Falcon, and if Falcon was looking specifically for Ant-Man, he's just like, he said yes. And in my mind, it's always, he said yes, like with a long pause, which is really funny.
Wait, there wasn't a pause?
There's a pause before he said yes. So you thought so too, right?
Yeah, I thought that was like, he said ...
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, exactly. That's what it's been in my brain for, I don't know, 9 years now or something. And, but it makes more sense for him to not have that pause. I don't like, why would you do that? But I thought it was funny. I thought it was funnier that way. So I don't know, maybe it's an alternate take.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I did like the mid-credit stinger where you get V2 of the Wasp suit and Evangeline Lilly is or not definitely Evangeline Lilly's so much luckier than Terrence Howard, that's for sure.
Oh my god, yes.
Because doesn't her character make the comment like just like next time, or she makes she makes some similar
like
comment.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Oh yeah, that guy, man. I tried to listen to him on Joe Rogan. He's mentally ill.
Wait, what were you doing even listening to the Joe Rogan podcast?
I don't normally, but I heard something about Terrence Howard being on it, and I was like, I kind of want to hear what he has to say, because he's got like these really dumb ideas about math, and it wasn't worth my time. But he's seriously has mental problems. Like, I'm not just like throwing that out there. He raves like a homeless person in the street, but he's got money, so he's not homeless.
Right.
Yeah, he's got some issues. But yeah, that mid-credit stinger with the Wasp suit, I thought it was weird that it was sleeveless, especially since they were putting a lot of emphasis on you need something to protect you, particles, blah blah blah, throughout this whole movie.
I mean, I thought it was just because it was work in progress, because Hank said he was working on it. Yeah,
I guess so. And if I recall correctly, it is full sleeve in the sequel. So
yeah, in Endgame too. She's it's a full sleeve too.
And we also get a post-credit stinger. It's actually from Captain America: Civil War, and so Bucky's got his robot arm in a vice, and Captain America and Falcon are talking about, who can they go to for some help, and Falcon says, "I know a guy," meaning Ant-Man.
Right.
And I had written in the notes, if I recall correctly, but I just watched this today, and I did recall correctly. Ant-Man doesn't really do a whole lot in Civil War except that one fight scene, and then ends up in the raft prison. So, but I mean, I guess you had to tie that, you got to tie your movies together. I guess
I bought that Lego set just for giant Ant-Man.
I didn't realize that.
Airport fight scene.
I didn't know there was one. A Lego set of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known.
Still it's in the closet back there.
Nice. All right. I'm going to steal it from your house next time I'm there. And of course we get Ant-Man will return, and he does return in the very next movie.
Wait. So in the arm in a vice thing, so his arm doesn't detach. I guess this early version of his arm,
I guess not,
doesn't detach. And also, like, couldn't he have just reached over with his other arm and loosened it?
Yeah, but also in that scene, he's normal again. And I think they just had his arm in the vice because he was passed out. And, if he woke up as the raging Winter Soldier, then, if nothing else would buy them some time.
Right. Okay.
Hey, don't try to knock Civil War.
I'll buy that, I guess. No, I'm not knocking Civil War. I'm knocking this post-credit stinger in another movie.
Yes, but it's straight out of Civil War.
This whole conversation, by the way, has knocked down my initial joy from this first installment of the Ant-Man trilogy.
Then I have done my job.
Now I'm at a loss of where exactly I feel it should be.
Do you want to go first with changes if you have any that you would like to have seen?
Sure, I can go. The first one, I think we mentioned Ant-Man putting his suit on in jail.
Yep.
I remember timing it going, there's no way you put on a full leather suit in 8 seconds.
Nope.
Right? That kind of annoyed me more than I wished it did, more than I had hoped it would, or more than I just thought it would. The Ant-Man and Falcon fight, I really just didn't like that fight. I don't know what it was. It just bugged me. And the grow disc in the regulator to get big.
Yeah.
That bugged me too. Like not so much. I didn't mind the need to shrink through the, to get through the suit and stuff. It was the grow disc in the regulator that like kind of annoyed the shit out of me. Yeah. All
right. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with all those. And well, I don't know. I didn't mind the Falcon fight, but not
you
gonna,
you were okay with the Falcon.
I'm not going to sit here and defend it either. As far as my thoughts on what I thought they could have done differently, I think that they either should not have tried to explain the technology or come up with something better. And I'll throw out an idea. Mass and energy are theoretically interchangeable. You have E equals MC squared that describes the relationship between the two of them. It happens all the time in nuclear reactions, fusion and fission. So it's real enough. And so maybe the Ant-Man suit can store your mass as energy, right? And you would need the suit to do that. So there's your reason for needing the suit. It doesn't have to be the PIM particles affect your brain chemistry or whatever, right? I don't really know how to apply that to the shrink grow discs, but that seems like a good opportunity to just not say anything. Right?
Yeah. Just leave it.
Yes. And, I already explained we don't need the suit protects your brain from an adverse side effects thing. So if you want another reason to need the suit, you could say that it protects you from normal matter or something, but again, I feel like less is more.
Right.
Another not totally bullshit thing that you could throw out there is something about wave particle duality in quantum mechanics. Basically, everything is a wave, but also particles. It's really weird. You can throw that term out there and that would be good enough for me. I would like to see the continuity errors be fixed. That should not have been difficult.
Right.
But that's pretty much it for my changes.
That's a lot more than mine.
Yeah. That leaves us with the ranking. Yes, and Rotten Tomatoes scores are pretty good. 83% with the critics, 85% with the audience, which, as with most movies in the MCU, puts it around Captain America, The First Avenger, Iron Man 3, and Avengers Age of Ultron. A quick recap on our current list. Going bottom to top, we have 11 movies right now, about to rank the 12th one. Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers, Thor, Age of Ultron, Captain America the First Avenger, Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and at the very top, Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Do you want to talk first on the ranking, or do you want me to? I don't care. I don't remember.
How about you go first? Okay. You go, since I've knocked mine down considerably.
Okay.
I was staring at my list of where I think it should go, and then I was like, it definitely fell for me while we were discussing this just now.
Okay. Obviously, the science in this movie I find to be largely inexcusable. I think that the Ant-Man tech is the hardest thing for me to suspend my disbelief with in the MCU. I cannot fully do it, but in between the stupid pseudoscientific blunders that they have in this movie, I do find the movie to be very entertaining, and it's good enough for me to kind of set that aside. Again, I didn't really focus in on all the science problems I had with it until specifically watching it for the podcast, and being able to pause it all the time and just jot down my nerd rage. I found that the second half of the movie is a lot more fun than the first half. That's not to say that the first half is bad, but I feel like that's actually a plus. A lot of times movies kind of run out of steam, 3/4 of the way through.
Right.
So in the second half, I thought it was easier to overlook the issues that I did have with it.
Right.
Mostly the VFX are really good. Interestingly, they're done largely by the same companies that did Age of Ultron, but they look better here, I thought. And Guardians of the Galaxy, which by far has the best VFX of any of the movies we've watched yet, that one was totally different studios who did those, which would explain that. But I don't know why they're not that great in Age of Ultron, but they're again good here and in some of the other movies that they've worked on. I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent. So for me, the top scenes here was Luis's first spiel about Hank's big ass safe sitting in the basement just chilling.
Yeah.
Then the final fight, mostly because of the toy train crash gag, and Luis's final spiel about Falcon looking to connect with Ant-Man. Like those are my three favorite things. So it's mostly Luis.
Yeah.
The worst parts are pretty much anything where anybody is explaining something scientific and the quantum realm part. So I guess I could talk about, do you want me to talk about where I think it would go, or do you want to talk about?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Talk about where you think it goes.
All right. So in my own ranking, I have it above Iron Man 2 and below Thor. But because
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, but because we have things, there's a huge gap between Iron Man 2 and Thor.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of movies.
So in my own ranking,
there.
it would go from bottom to top: Iron Man 2, Ant-Man, then Thor. So here, I think I would put it like on this list. I think I would put it at the new number 8, below Avengers, and bumping down the Incredible Hulk. That's mine.
Nice. Well, I mean, maybe I should say interesting more than nice. Which I'm amazed at because, you know, as a girl dad, I really loved this movie.
Uh-huh.
I totally understand his motivations and his whole desire to do anything for his daughter.
Right.
And just like the whole, I didn't think it was sexist at all. Him, Michael Douglas not wanting his daughter to jump into the suit, especially after finding out that the Wasp sacrificed herself to shrink between the atoms and get in there. Right. And then like just Paul Rudd and Michael Pena just being so awesome. I think all of that initially made me gloss over the bulk of the things that like started coming up while we were discussing this, like the whole, like, how did he find out about Scott Lang? The whole, the grow disc to, the grow disc jammed into the regulator to grow back to full size. That always bugged me.
Right.
But then like all this other stuff that started just kind of piling on that we were discussing kind of just started knocking it down a little bit more or just took that shine off a little bit more than I thought. So I was with you in, as soon as I started looking at our list, it's definitely better than Iron Man 2.
Right.
It's not worse than Thor 2 or Iron Man 3. So finding the absolute bottom of where it could possibly be was easy for me. It was definitely better than, not as good as Thor. But I also liked the Avengers 2, and I also liked Avengers, and I like the Incredible Hulk, even though that movie had its problems, because I've always loved the Hulk.
Right. Well, and I'm not saying any of those movies are bad. I'm just saying like this is where it gets hard to start to rank things, because like any one of these could move up or down a spot and probably still be okay.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is like I actually ranked Ant-Man just under Incredible Hulk. You have Ant-Man above Incredible Hulk.
Okay. All right.
That's what I was like.
You say,
I was like, oh, okay. So we're in the same vicinity.
So this is like the last episode. We were off by one, and we played for it. So let's do Infinity Saga, Trivial Pursuit Poker.
Oh, it's my turn to bid this time. Huh?
So if you win, you say it's the new number 9, right? And if I win, I say it's the new number 8.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me rebigulate the questions here.
Right.
The very idea of which is preposterous. All right. Let's read.
My days of breaking into places and stealing shit are done. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some shit.
Okay. I'm good when you are.
Okay. I think I've got 3.
You are going. Yeah. I've got 2 and I could maybe guess. So yeah, I'm going to let you do your 3. All right. Question the first. The explosion of the arc reactor brings defeat to which of the following adversaries? Not that you would even need the multiple choice. Loki, Ironmonger, or the Destroyer?
Ironmonger.
That is, well, I didn't even look at the answers, but I'm sure it's correct. Hold on. Let me double check with the answers.
But do you have the answers?
I do. I didn't open them though. Let me see.
Okay.
Answers. I don't know why I thought I could just wing it. Yes, it is Ironmonger. All right. I don't think that surprises either one of us.
Well, that's the only one I know for sure.
Really? No, I think you know one of the other ones for sure. What language are Dr. Wendy Lawson's engine notes written in? Oh, I get the question now. Okay.
My guess on this one is Cree.
I'm going to give that to you. It says Cree glyphs.
Cree glyphs?
Yeah, but
okay.
That's, yeah. I
awesome. Thank you.
I would have, if I had read that, I didn't see engine. I saw like, what language are Dr. Wendy's notes written in? I'm like, who's that? Or Dr. Wendy Lawson's. But the engine gave it away. Yeah, I guess I could have gone 3, but I wouldn't have been able to do 4. So I still would have let you do 3. What is the name of the Roxxon oil accountant whose life is threatened in Iron Man 3?
Man, I don't even remember this. Who was it?
I can't tell you.
It wasn't. You know. I was getting confused. I was thinking Jasper Sitwell because of the big oil tanker. In Captain America 2.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna get 3. You're gonna get 3 anyway because they're gonna. So I might as well tell you. It's Thomas Richards, which is
the next question down.
2 questions down because I was like, wouldn't it be funny if that was? So we'll skip to that one just for the listener here. Yeah. But 2 questions down, it goes, what corporation does accountant Thomas Richards work for? So when they designed this game, they clearly didn't have what we were going to do with it in mind. But I read that and I was like, it'd be funny if that was Roxxon Oil.
Right.
Anyways, so the question that they didn't just give the answer away to is, what is the name of the Grandmaster's ship that Thor steals?
That one I don't remember either.
The Commodore.
Oh, right.
I don't even know.
With the party mode.
Oh, yes. That's right. Okay.
That's the one with the party mode. Yeah.
Yep. All right. And then the last question, what part of Doctor Strange's body is so damaged by the accident that he can never perform surgery again?
His hands.
That is correct, sir. So you get your legitimate 3. And that means
Ant-Man is number 9.
Ant-Man is the new number 9. Yes.
You know, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for our discussion, Ant-Man probably would have been would have been 8. Would have been exactly where you were.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah. Where it right above the Incredible
Hulk. I did it to
Hulk.
myself.
Yeah, this discussion knocked it down.
Yeah. I'm not mad about that, but okay. That's it for Ant-Man, and that's it for phase 2. And
yeah, I didn't realize phase 2. This was the end of phase 2. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. Next up, we're kicking off phase 3 with a banger. Captain America: Civil War from May 6th, 2016.
I mean, it's all downhill after that movie for me, except for Endgame.
I mean, yeah. Well, I did just rewatch Civil War today, and I'm a little bit like, is it better than Endgame and Infinity War? And I'm not sure. Like, it's going to be hard to rank those. It's really, really good.
It's just such a powerful movie. I'm excited to start to rewatch it.
But before we go, we did get another email, and it was, it was Majors.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to address a few things as we go. He had a few points. So he says that the Guardians of the Galaxy episode was another fun show. Thank you for recording it. I want to say thank you for being thankful. Majors goes on to say, let me apologize for mixing up my Marvel universes. I forgot X-Men is not MCU when I asked about X-Men 97, but George and you are not adverse to tangents.
Nope.
No apology necessary. And yes, we obviously are very, very much not adverse to tangents. We're prone to them. So for me, the podcast isn't really meant to be restricted to the MCU stuff exclusively. At some point, we are going to catch up. And then what we're going to do, we're going to do like one episode every 6 or 8 months whenever a movie comes out, right? So I've always envisioned doing multiple different series covering different things, not even necessarily movies. Okay. But, I've got a whole list of things that we could potentially be doing. Some of them are MCU adjacent. Some are totally different. And if we had more free time, I'd be doing some of these things already at the same time. But, this is about all we can muster right now. So for me, it wasn't a problem at all. It was certainly closely related enough. So not out of line. Majors then says, while listening to the Guardians of the Galaxy episode on my drive last weekend, I realized your show is basically a book on tape, rather the Cliff Notes version. And then he suggests maybe we should coin the term movie on pod. And so that's kind of another thing that I feel like we've been trying to go for. I do like the movie podcasts that kind of recap the movie as they go. It helps you to think about the scenes when people are discussing it.
Right.
That having been said, we are trying to dial back the parts where I'm just running through description of the movie and trying to get a little bit more banter between the two of us, which I think we did a little better on this one, but we are recording very long again. We're up to 2 hours and 20 minutes right now. Hopefully I can cut this down shorter than that. But the plan is still to kind of give a Cliff's Notes version of the movie for the most part.
Mm.
And then he had a comment about the sound volume in general and saying that the movie clips are kind of hard to hear relative to us. And he was oftentimes driving a loud diesel truck hauling arcade equipment across the country to various cons. This is an issue I have been struggling with. I put a lot of time into editing, and part of that is trying to get relatively similar volume between the two of us.
Right.
Because I cannot listen to a podcast when one person is significantly quieter than the other one. I've had to turn off several shows because of that. But I hadn't really thought about the overall volume so much. And I know that it was especially bad on the Guardians of the Galaxy one because I was having computer problems. I was working on a different machine, and there were some default settings that I hadn't fixed. And when I exported that one, there's like an auto levels on export feature that was turned on. And for whatever reason, that made things quiet. And I didn't catch it really until I listened to the podcast after it had posted. Because I do like to listen to it after it posts in between some other things that I listen to, just to get the feeling of listening to it like it's not my own show. And I can be a little bit more critical of it that way, I think. So I think we did course correct that on the Age of Ultron episode quite a bit. I don't think the overall volume is exactly where we wanted it to be, but I'm constantly tweaking things, trying to make it better. It is a work in progress after all.
You mean you're not a scientist and a sound engineer?
Yeah, that's a lot harder than it looks. So thanks for the feedback, Majors. I always appreciate it when you email us. And as for everyone else, if you want to contact us, you can email us at absolutelythebestpodcast@gmail.com. You can join our Discord and hang out with us. There's a link in the show notes. We did just get Nick from the Homebrew Game Club podcast. He just joined. He's a good dude and a good podcast. So if you like homebrew games on older systems, check out that podcast. We also have links to our socials and a couple ways you can help support the show in the show notes, should you so desire. But the best thing you can do is to leave a review. Please help us spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your aunt, and tell a subatomic particle. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.
I'll see you in Civil War.
Yeah.
Absolutely the Best Podcast is a production of Audio Johnny, a subsidy of Corporation Johnny. Corporation Johnny. If it exists, we own it.